Welcome back to another episode of Almost Above Average, the podcast where we tackle life's complexities with wit, charm, and unfiltered opinions. Today, me and Black Silk dive into a rich tapestry of topics that impact all of us, ranging from workplace dynamics and government accountability to the influence of toll roads and taxation. We'll explore the duality of Elon Musk's impact on society, the challenges of political trust, and the evolving beauty standards across cultures. But that's not all. This conversation gets personal as we reflect on parenting in a fast food culture, from the importance of healthy eating to the emotional significance of home-cooked meals. We'll uncover how these choices shape childhood experiences and mental health. So join us as we navigate the balance between convenience and nutrition while examining how fast food influences children's habits and expectations. Packed with personal anecdotes, sharp insights, and lively debates, this episode promises to leave you thinking about how these issues ripple through our lives. So buckle up for a thought-provoking ride through society's challenges and triumphs, because here at Almost Above Average, we're always aiming to just be a little better. Here we go now with Black Silk. News, and I didn't really know anybody that it affected personally until I had the last guy on my interview. He was a 5-time Ironman champ, and he was like furloughed, and he's like, me and friends of mine, we have to every week justify their job, and that is just bananas to me.
Well, it's just 5 bullet points of what you did the week.
Yeah.
And if you work more than a day, you're fine because you've done more than just one thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're saying, you could take one thing and break it down, say if you had a project that you have to do, well, there could be 10, 12 things within that one project that you have to do. So you just need to list 5, you know?
And what happens if you don't?
If you don't for a period of time, then you're probably going to get, told, take your retirement. You know what I mean?
Doesn't that encourage people to be dishonest?
You can be dishonest about things like that, just like financial aid and a lot of other things, you get. You can always be dishonest, but when it really comes down to it, it seems like it's more to make sure that you're not outsourcing your job, which a lot of people have done. And it's also making sure that you're an actual real person. They're not just sending money to a robot. You know what I mean?
Right. So you've been doing this. You've already been having to justify your job. How often? Yeah. How often have you had to do that?
At least 3 to 4 times a year.
Okay. Has it increased since Elon Musk and his thing? Has it increased since Elon Musk?
A little bit. This morning, I went and sent an email and saying what I did last week. I mean, it's not that hard.
I would feel offended. If I work for you, that means we both made an agreement at the beginning. You're going to trust me to do a certain thing. I'm going to trust you to pay me for that certain thing. And then you're going to ask me to justify it again later. I would be offended by that.
It's kind of funny because I'm really not, just due to the fact that I've dealt with so many things before. It's kind of how do I put it? It's easy because I've had so much scrutiny, I guess to say. And the people that have scrutinized me have been the ones who are having the most problems with it. So it's really kind of awkward to me because it's all of you are requiring me to do this, but then when someone requires you to do it, you're offended. Is this you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't see any problem with it because especially if you're trying to eliminate government waste. Mm-hmm. The thing about it is that Biden was talking about it before his presidency. The best person that probably did it was Clinton, believe it or not. And that's been a long time. So it's been a long time coming and so forth. And Clinton, during those terms, actually balanced the budget and figured out things, which was really good. And I'm not going to be yay Democrats, yay Republicans. But when it really came down to it, Clinton really did a lot. Now, I kind of feel bad a little bit because a lot of the only thing that was quote unquote really bad with his administration was the fact that he had an affair. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's a personal matter, not so much something that needs to be all the government needs to be all into it. So I feel even though you can say it's immoral or whatever, I feel like we should take morality out of situations like finances. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because what I want for my wiener doesn't affect how I operate my business.
Right. Now, if we wanted to talk morals, we can talk about how the Clintons treated the Haitians, which was really horrible, or something like that. But again, it's kind of you have to understand that we're trying to make our people better right now and so forth. And it's not so much just screw the rest of the world. It's, we really do need to back up. It's kind of if you let anybody who asks you to borrow money, And the next thing you know, your kid has an emergency and you don't have enough money for your kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, I need to, dial back, not put myself out there so much so that my kid can get the health care and the whatever that she or he needs. And the problem with a lot of people is that one thing that I've seen is that a lot of people are a lot of takers and there's hardly any givers. And right now we're the American people and we have our taxes and everything, and we've been giving. It's kind of like toll roads. Toll roads are a complete scam. What happens is you have a toll road. They say, okay, for the next 5 years, we're going to pay tolls on this road so that so that it will pay for the road. Well, by the time that 5 years is up, it's already paid for the road like 4 or 5 times over.
Now you're just collecting my money.
Now you're just collecting money, right? But then after that, they say, okay, well, this is expiring. Let's renew it. So then it's renewed for another 10 years. And that is just straight off profit. Yep. And you could say, well, it created some jobs for the people who are on the toll road. But then you look at it and it's like, you don't have a bunch of string. You probably have like 1 or 2 people on these roads, at a time. So it's not really collecting that much of an income on them. If they're making like $100 or something thousand a year, then okay, it is paying for them or whatever, but they're not, you know what I mean? And they're probably making more than $1 million on each of these roads, especially with Easy Tag and everything else involved, And it just keeps getting renewed and it never shuts down. So you have these toll roads that have been around for like 25, 30 years when there was only supposed to be around for 5. So stuff like that. And where's all this money going? Is it creating better roads? No.
I'll tell you this, at the end of every year here in North Carolina, back home, we didn't have any tolls. So nice. I didn't know about it when I got here until I got that first bill like 8 months after I got here. And it was like $1,200. So now the pattern has been like at the end of every year, I get a bill for like $1,600, $2,200. Like it's a huge bill.
Oh my gosh.
What's unfortunate is that I'm always on the road for work. So I have to be efficient, I have to use the toll roads. It's ridiculous how much it costs.
Oh my gosh, I would be floored. Thankfully, when they were talking about in San Antonio getting toll roads, it was like, I think it was like 90% or 95% or something like that of our government said no. You know what I mean? Like, none of us wants that here. I mean, we have it in Houston, we have it in other places and stuff. But I really just don't appreciate toll roads. Right. But I mean, people are mad about Elon Musk, Trump, and everything like that. And quite frankly, some of them have good reasons, some of them don't. Some of them are just into media, some of them are actually looking into what's actually going on. And a lot of things are really up in the air right now. But what I feel like we need to do as a nation is to just come together regardless of all of our differences and stuff on it right now. I felt that way with the Biden administration, the Obama administration, the Bush administration, and also this Trump administration. So I just cross fingers and pray that Trump does the right thing and the people that he puts in power do the right thing accordingly and so forth, and that the American people can just keep flowing easily, Do
you think what Elon Musk is... Or do you think how he's going about doing what he's doing is a good thing?
So it's a catch-22 because it's really, really early in the stages to really, really understand everything that's going on. A lot of times we don't understand things that go on until way later. Right. Way later. What do you call it? So some people could be right and could be catching this, putting up red flags and stuff before things go into an actual crisis, because I've heard a lot of good points against him and a lot of good points for him. And it could be a situation where we're going to have to fight robots, or it could be a situation where we have a utopia. It just matters which way it goes. So the thing about it is that if Elon's actually trying to save the world, then that's one thing. If he's trying to be a mad scientist, that's another thing, because he can go either way. It's like, it's kind of like any kind of character in this world. They can become the hero or the villain, People are rallied on each side right now and so forth. I'm just hoping for the best and preparing for the worst at this point.
I like what he does. I like the idea of auditing the government.
Yes.
I think that's necessary. But what I have I keep hearing all these reports and seeing it on social media about all this fraud that he keeps finding, like condoms going to Ghana and like studies for freaking syphilis in Zimbabwe. You know, weird things that he keeps coming out with.
Yeah.
The problem I have with it is that he refuses to go testify to Congress with his findings. He's saying all this stuff like, look what I found. I found this. I found this. My guys found this. And then the government's like, cool, come in and present that to the American people. And he's like, no, you just gotta trust me. I'm finding it.
Yeah,
you know?
that's
like
kind
I
of
have
a
a
hard
problem
one.
with that.
I actually don't know much about that part at all, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I do know that when Jon Stewart, asked him to come on the show, he kind of like said he would, and
He
then
won't
he
do it.
declined.
Yeah.
And I don't really appreciate that. I mean, I feel like Jon Stewart's not neutral, but he's also not a dummy. So the thing about it is that I feel like if anybody can straighten things out, especially for the American people, and make either them go one way or the other, you know what I mean? Either, because it's kind of like the whole situation with Trump going on the show for Joe Rogan, He went on the show. He had this the show was like 3 hours. It was a huge show. And he asked Kamala Harris to do the same. He's like, hey, look, I'm not going to badger anyone. I just want to know what your plan is and what you're doing.
Yeah, she fucked up. She
just didn't. She would rather pay millions of dollars to Beyonce instead of doing that. And the thing about it is I didn't have very much high hopes for, believe it or not, either of them, because Kamala's a prosecutor, and she has the mentality of, she has a party girl mentality still, which is kind of weird, but she also has this huge mentality of, how do I say it, of we got to win no matter what, as opposed to justice or anything else. Because, I mean, you have to think about it. A prosecutor's a prosecutor. It's not about, when she is prosecuting someone, she doesn't care if the person is legit right in their standings or not. She's there to prosecute. That's just it. And having that kind of mentality is quite a bit dangerous, especially in a situation where you're trying to be a president. Because the thing about it is, if you're trying to, quote unquote, win everything without looking and seeing what's actually
Objective
going on,
proof.
right, or proof, then you can run into a bear trap real quick, because you're trying to win, but which I can't really say Trump's not going to be doing the same thing. You know what I mean? But when it really comes down to it, it's like, you have to understand that mentality is kind of a red flag. I mean, personally, I voted for Jill Stein, believe it or not, even though third party is not going to win.
Yeah. This is a vote for the third party. You were voting against everyone else. You weren't voting for Jill Stein. You're just I'm taking a stand.
She had a pretty good platform, and she actually did try to go to the debates and stuff. She got kicked out of it. Do you remember that?
No, I didn't follow much of the third party.
She got kicked out. They're like, you're not one of the two parties. Get out of here. So they kicked her out. She actually did try. She actually tried to walk on stage and everything. So, I mean, she had a lot of spunk to her and everything like that. And I'm not sure if a woman president would be the greatest thing for us, but she did have a good platform and so forth. As long as I feel like Trump doesn't try something like meth, I think would be fine, because everyone's claiming all this stuff about, Trump is the next Hitler, And really, when you look at Hitler's run, everything went downhill as soon as he started taking meth. And so, and it got to the point where literally, like, all the soldiers were taking meth. They had meth in the chocolate bars. It's like, wait a minute, guys. Wait a minute. So,
as an experienced user of meth, I know exactly what that does to one's brain.
Let's see. As an experienced person who fought people outside of 7-Elevens.
The soldiers.
I told you, man, I don't have $1. Yeah, those are kind of tough. No, and it's really funny. It's like, how is this little scrawny dude trying to kick my ass? Cops were involved, and someone got
10 toes in when we standing on business. I'm Mr. Body Catcher, Slaughter Gangster.
Visit buckedup.com today and use code McMedia1 at checkout for exclusive deals on all fitness products at buckedup.com.
Pulled off or whatnot, but it's like, what in the world? Because, you fight somebody before, you fight somebody in a ring, or you fight somebody on the street or in a park or something, And I'm not condoning any of that. But then you actually find someone who does something like crack or meth, and it's a whole different fight, man.
It's a different lifestyle. It's a
It's a
different
different
encounter with the
lifestyle.
person.
But it's like, because, I've had to deal with people who had nothing to lose, but there's something different about somebody on meth. That's all I got to say.
But Trump, he didn't even drink alcohol because his uncle was an alcoholic.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I don't know. But then there's been reports that he takes Adderall too. So you never know who's giving him what. You know what I'm saying?
True.
He would be a little skinnier though if he was taking some uppers.
Yeah, you'd think. So I don't
That was
think
my
so.
experience.
That makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah, I don't know if he'd go down that road. You know what scares me the most is that I think Elon Musk really feels like I liked him and I respected him so much before he got involved into politics. Like I looked up to him a lot, but now it really seems like he's trying to be the fucking evil Tony Stark of the world. You know what I mean? Like he's got all the technology, he's got all the money, he's got the favor of the most powerful man in the world.
Yeah.
All of those factors kind of scare me. Like, what does he really want?
Yeah,
He's getting all his government contracts pushed through because now he kind of runs shit. You know?
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is that a lot of the government contracts he has is not through the Trump administration. A lot of them were through Biden.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's kind of hard for Biden because I would listen to interviews of people in his staff and so forth, and it was points in time where he would say, "I didn't do this," and literally his signature would be on the paper. So it's like it's not so much that I wouldn't trust him at that point. It's that I wouldn't trust the people who he was around because they constantly had this whole situation of abusing the situations because of maybe just naivety. And it makes it a very, very hard situation because if he wasn't really behind most of those things, then it's kind of like, okay, it was just people manipulating him. So it makes it a very hard situation because he can have a speech or he can talk to people about things, but then turn around and something totally different happens. Well, it's because of his cabinet or somebody who pushed a bill that he thought was one thing. Because one problem that I do have with a lot of the politicians is that they'll have a bill, they'll have a good bill, and it sounds great, and then come to find out there's a clause or something in it that changes something completely not related to the bill at all. So, and then if that passes, then this is a problem. You know what I mean? Or it makes
like this bill on immigration we just passed with bipartisan support, except for in there is $100 billion allocated to fund guns to a guerrilla war effort in Ghana or some shit like that, right?
Yeah.
Like they snuck in a clause.
Right. And that's the hard part about it and that's also what Elon Musk is trying to alleviate is figuring out, well, why do we have this? And the thing about it is that he asks a lot of questions, just like Trump asked questions. Trump asked the question not too long ago about what we need in Canada. And some people who gave a really good answer was, I forgot, they were talking about how the lumber over there was a lot cheaper than here, and then we won't extinct our forests and so forth. But it also has a lot to say because there's a lot of really open space in Canada where there's a lot of trees. So that kind of resource is something that we could use. So it's like you can't just tariff everything, but at the same time, we're being tariffed as well. So a lot of our stuff isn't going out as much because it's not financially feasible for other places and so forth. So it's a really big catch-22 because you have to understand that everyone's trying to do what's best for their own country. And it's just really hard.
Why do you think that we are putting tariffs? Do you think it's a smart idea for America to put tariffs on our closest allies?
Well, that's the thing about it too, because if all of our money is going out and not really making its way back, and the only way it makes its way back is through war, then we need a a better plan of things, because we don't need to make money off of war because we're killing ourselves, we're killing other people. It's making a big problem for everything. So we need to find a way that we can do this business-wise to where we don't need to like make a war to fund, you know what I mean, to get money back in government contracts and everything else. So it's a very, very hard situation because at one point in time, we did tariff a lot of things and we had immaculate buildings. We had so much tapestry. It's kind of like saying like McDonald's. Back in the day, there was a lot of bright, vibrant colors and stuff. You go to the new McDonald's that are revolutionized, and it looks like a middle-aged man business suit and not a kid's wonderland anymore. You know what I mean? The red and the yellow was like a very, very deciding factor for everything. Now you have grays and black. You know what I mean? It's like, I remember we stepped into Addie wanted to go to a McDonald's and she saw the sign and she's like, Addie's my daughter. And she saw the sign and we went to it and she's like, this doesn't look like a McDonald's. So we walked inside and it's like, Dad, there's no play place here. I'm like, well, do we want to stay? And she's like, no.
Yeah. Like, what the hell's happening at McDonald's,
we ended up actually going to a Chick-fil-A because they had a play place.
But they're closed on Sunday.
Yeah, actually, she was upset yesterday because I was gonna pick up some fast food for her or whatever because she didn't eat before she got dropped off, and she was like, "But Dad, I want to go to Chick-fil-A." I'm like, Addie, we're not going to Chick-fil-A. We're going to this place or this place. No, I want to go to Chick-fil-A. I'm like, Addie, what day is today? She's like, church day. And I'm like, it's a Sunday. Chick-fil-A's aren't open on Sundays, and she was just like.
She's like, why? Why not? Because of Jesus, obviously. All right?
Right.
Yeah.
Boy.
That's crazy. I don't know. What do you think about us taking over Canada, 51st state?
It's a really funny situation because since Puerto Rico became kind of a United States island, we've actually visited there. We've visited San Juan, Old San Juan, Rincon, and drove through it and so forth. And it's really kind of a funny situation because like every place has something different. And one of the things different is that at night, you can run through red lights and stuff is what I was told because you don't want to get jumped or whatnot. So it was kind of a weird situation because you slow down and so forth. And you see these cops and they just kind of like circle. They just circle and it's so weird. But yeah, it was actually a really nice time. We got to go and see a lot of different wildlife, a lot of different beaches and so forth, and we saw some of the good ones. And I went and pulled up to this one beach, and it was completely trashed. It was just all the resorts and stuff, if they threw bottles out into the ocean, it collected at this one spot, and it was pretty nasty. But like, it's a very, very beautiful place, and it's really kind of funny because I would think that would be the first, right? Puerto Rico?
Yeah, I don't know what justifies it being a territory and what justifies it being a state. But right. I know it's a U.S. territory.
Right. So we've been there. But in Canada, a lot of people actually want to be a part of the United States. Their economy is not.
I haven't seen any of that. I have seen a lot of the opposite.
I've seen both.
I haven't seen any of the pro-America Canadians yet,
dude,
but I'm sure
there's a lot of pro-Americans, especially people who are on their not welfare system. They don't have really a good welfare system, but they also don't have a really good healthcare system, believe it or not. There's this one story of this lady who had just a simple knee surgery, and it took them 2 years for her to get scheduled in. And then they scheduled her in. She got the surgery, but she needed to go to another facility because they needed to sew her up and everything like that. And the facility didn't have enough beds. So she waited like 9 days for a bed with an open wound, and it messed up her leg to the point where they had to amputate her leg.
I wonder how many stories like that there are.
There's a lot, believe it or not.
Do you think there's more bad stories than people that are pro-socialist medicine?
Well, it's kind of a hard situation because what determines the care? You know what I mean? Because if you're like an old lady who's retired, you're not going to get the care because no one really wants you there anymore. They want you to be a productive member of society, but the people who aren't as productive.
Are you talking about Canadian society or American society?
Yeah.
Canadian society?
This is Canadian society. Actually, a lot of people, and it's kind of a hard one because, there's a point where you can buy your own health care. It's kind of like people that I know here that would say that the dentistry for like braces is too expensive here. So they'll go to Mexico and find some doctor where they don't have the same laws and stuff restricting them and get one for like super cheap and then come back here and then just try to keep it upkeep. You know what I mean? Yeah. I've seen that a lot and it's actually worked out for a lot of people, but you have it's really weird because all around the world has different mentalities of how things should work. It's kind of like in China. China's the worst place for plastic surgery because people don't feel like they can get ahead if they do not look a certain way and so forth to a point, you know what I mean? Because basically...
Chinese society?
Yeah, in their society. Basically, what generates fairness there is not personality, not hard work ethic, but actually a lot of it has to do with actually your appearance.
Physical
And
appearance.
yeah, and it gets to the point where people are trying to do leg extensions to be taller. People are trying to do nose jobs and everything else to where, but the problem with it is that a lot of them don't have the money to do it. And because they don't have the money, they go to these little like huts out in the middle of nowhere where someone says that they can do it, and people are just getting maimed. And that's a big problem, and that's still a big problem. It's kind of like even further back in the day, they would say that women needed small feet. So they would literally put these restraining shoes on women so that their feet would not grow.
I remember those heels that those women's ankles end up like that.
Yeah.
It's so gross.
It's a really, really big situation.
Well, there's a lot of cultures like that. There's those ones in Africa and I think South America where they put those rings around their neck and they extend. I heard a little more documentary on that. It's not that they extend their neck, it's that they push their shoulders down away from their head. Like they move their shoulder shit down. Well, I'm sure it's extending it either way, but it's a weird practice, right?
Very.
Yeah, but I forgot what I was going to say.
But it all ties into a lot of mental health, because if you don't have a handle on certain things, then certain things happen. It's kind of like the problem with obesity in our great states, and that's a big problem. And the thing about it is that also weighs on a lot of people's mental, because let's face it, we're always seeing images of people who are living their best life or looking their best or whatnot, but they don't ever think about the work that takes to be involved in such things. You know what I mean?
I'll explore that. I'll take that a little further. I was a fat kid when I was young. And I remember when I was 12 years old, one of my friends, his name was Charlie Castillo. His older brother I think he was like 16 or 17 at the time. But we were playing outside in front of my house, and he called me a fat ass. Now, a lot of people have like called me that, during that time. But for whatever reason, when he said it that one time, it stung. You know what I mean? Like it really stuck. And it stuck with me forever, like to the point where when I started going to the gym a couple years ago, I was kind of like, fuck it. I don't want to I still felt like that as like I did at 12. So that kind of mental, it has been there my whole life. Like this voice inside me, like, fucking you're fat, go do something about it kind of thing. And I bet that's true for a lot of people, not just Americans, but like all over the world.
Right. And, one of the things that I was told is that a strong body helps your psyche become stronger as well, because you're actually taking the time to maintain things to become better as an individual physically. It'll also help you out mentally. Me personally, my weight dropped, rise, and everything else. But talking about fat kids, look at this baseball card of me.
Look at you, little chunk. See, that was like me. That's kind of like my build.
It's really funny because like the year later after that, like I ended up having a 6-pack.
No shit. I never did. And that was part of the reason I went to the gym, is because I never ever had one.
Well, my dad is like super competitive. I have this whole thing of medals back here.
What are
because
they?
I just kept going with things. The thing about it is that back then it was just, I don't know, it was just me not realizing, weight and all that kind of stuff. And I was still active. I still like played little sports and stuff. But yeah, so then after that, we actually moved back to California, and I got on a track and field team, and I also got on the swimming team. And then I was just like constantly moving, for stuff like that. So then when I was constantly moving, I constantly gained.
Thanks for tuning in to this thought-provoking episode, Almost Above Average. We hope you enjoyed our lively discussion on workplace dynamics, government accountability, and the challenges of parenting in a fast food culture. If you found this episode insightful, please share it with friends and family on social media. Your support helps us reach more people and spark meaningful conversations. And if you love this episode, we'd be forever grateful if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps others discover our show and join the conversation. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll dive into fascinating topics and stories. Until then, remember, every conversation matters, and until every voice counts. Thanks again for listening, and we look forward to catching up with you on the next episode, Almost Above Average.